Hey everybody, I'm sorry I've been locked up with COVID all week, so sucks for me. But I had a lot of questions from people on the last couple videos, and I just wanted to attend to you guys while I'm locked in my room with my cats and get the settings down properly. And I know it's a little difficult when I'm in parks and I'm trying to show you guys stuff. Sometimes there's sun glare on the screen and I'm like trying to adjust my camera so you guys can see the screen. So I'm going to try to really make sure you guys can see my Deus screen here and that my settings are really clear. Okay, let's get right down to it. Obviously, to turn the machine on, we just hit this upper left button. When you get to this screen, if you had headphones on, you would hit this left upper button, but we're going to hit the middle upper button so we can hear the module volume. Okay, I have two custom programs here. Now, I think some people have been sort of shunning custom programs, but really, my programs are free of pretty much all discrimination, so they'd be what you call hunting wide open. So that sort of fear of missing out that you get when you get on someone's channel and they're like, yeah, my program's the best, right? You're not going to get that here because my program isn't really a custom program. It's like a no program. It's just a wide open discrimination. So what I've done here is my first program here is based off the multi-frequency high conductor program. Now if we hit this minus button, it's going to take us through the various programs, right? Goldfield, Deus Mono, there it is. Deep HC. Let's go back to my program here. So this is based off of Deep HC, which is Deep High Conductor. All right, high conductors obviously being silver, or whatever. So here I hit the plus arrow, and it would continue to take me through programs. Now the next program is K2. That's another program that I've created. That was based off of the Deus Mono, which is basically just means it's single frequency. It's running off of a single frequency. Okay, how did I save these programs? Well, I hit the plus and minus buttons till I get to the factory program that I want to use, right? Whether it's a single or a multi-frequency program. Then I adjust the settings how I want. Yeah, let's go over how I adjust them. So right now we're on my Deep High Conductor program. I hit menu, the upper middle button. It takes us to this. If we continue to hit the upper middle button, we scroll through sort of a cycle of settings. Sensitivity I have at 50 just because I'm in the house. I usually have that around 80 or higher. Frequency shift is just the electromagnetic frequency in the air, right? The whatever, your telephone wires and stuff, right? We could do where you can scan and get rid of any EMI. Okay, iron volume I keep at 5 because I like to hear my iron. Reactivity I usually hunt at 1, 1.5 or 2. I don't hunt higher than 2 because I've noticed that I lose depth. Audio response is deeper signals. It's going to sort of make those sound louder. I don't want it to be too loud. I like to hear some nuance, so I usually keep that at 4 or 5. Okay, so if we hit from discrimination, if we hit the upper left button here, expert, now it takes us to another cycle of options, which by pressing the upper middle button, it simply scrolls me through, right? I can just keep scrolling through them and it'll take me back to each one. Now, Paystreak Super Freak mentioned this as well. I hate how every time you turn it on, no matter how many times you turn your silencer to 0, it freaking brings it back to 2. That means every time you turn this stupid machine on, you have to turn that damn silencer back to 0. Silencer is just going to make you sacrifice depth. We don't want the processor working that hard. We can use our brain as a processor. It's a much more powerful processor. So get that silencer at 0, guys. Bottle caps, 0, right? I showed you guys in my last video how to ignore bottle caps by simply toggling between multi and single frequency programs, and what we're looking at now. So keep that sucker at 0. We don't need that as a discrimination feature anymore. We'll go to notch in a second. Okay, so let's go to tones. I hunt in 3 tones. There's no reason why you can't hunt in a different set of tones. This is just what I like hunting in. I like to keep things really simple. So if we hit expert, the upper left button again, while on the tones here, it's going to take us to this interesting screen. Now, you can see this tone 1, right, is 100 Hertz. I've adjusted that. If I hit the upper left button, it takes me to my 2nd tone, and if I hit that again, it takes me to my 3rd tone. And each one will be represented by a certain frequency, Hertz, right? Let's go back to tone 1. If I press the, well, let's just show you this square nail. Right, and I brought a bunch of nails with me, so we could hear, right? Okay. All right. Now, if we hit the plus button, we watch the Hertz, right, is actually going up. And all I have to do is hold it down. I don't have to keep pressing, right? I just press and hold. I'm going to take it to 200 so you guys can hear the difference. Yeah, so I don't want to hear that. That sounds like a mid-tone to me, right? That doesn't sound like iron. So we're going to take that back down so it has that nice low iron grunt to it. All the way back down to 100 Hertz. That's what we want to be hearing. That's why we keep our iron volume jacked up too. So we can hear that coming through, right? Okay, now let's hit the down arrow again. Now we're on our mid conductors. Let's take a nickel. That's actually, yeah, that's a nice mid-tone. I might take that down a little bit eventually. So that's at 644 Hertz right now. All right, let's pull tab. Yeah. There's no reason for that number whatsoever, 644. You can adjust that however you want to sound just like the mid-tone that sounds good to your ears. That's what's cool about this. There's no like fear of missing out if you go higher or lower in your pitch, frequency, hertz, right, range. So if I go to my next one by hitting again my upper left button, you can see it's just highlighted my last tone here, and I take my silver dime here. It's got a very nice high tone. It's at 930 hertz right now. Let's take it, and I'm just going to press that plus button, and it's going to, I think it goes all the way up to 993. That's a real nice high tone, right? Might even keep it at that. It's just got that nice fluty high sound. So if we go back to the, I pressed my upper left button, and we go back to the first tone break, you see it says the number 10. That represents the number of my tone break, because we've got altogether 99 target ID segments, right? From 1 to 10 is my first tone. From 10 to 80 is my second tone. From 80 to 99 is my last tone. If I press this middle button here, I toggle, right, over to tone break. And below that is the corresponding number that's represented in my first tone break. If I keep pressing the middle button, upper button, it just toggles between, do you want to adjust your frequency range, or do you want to adjust your tone break, right? You're not going to mess anything up by pressing this upper middle button. You're just going to toggle between those two things. So now I've highlighted tone break, so I know now if I hit my plus sign, you can see that tone break is going up. See how it's going way up there. So now that means anything that I scan here that is a 0 to 35 is going to sound like iron. Yeah? I don't want it that high, so I'm going to go back down to 10. Now I brought a bunch of iron, and we can see in the lower left-hand side there, right, the target ID numbers actually come up, which is kind of cool. So you can see your target ID numbers when you're testing your objects in your tone menu. Now in the real world, that only came up to like a 5 or a 6, but in the real world, iron usually comes up even a little bit higher than that. And the cool thing here is we know from watching a lot of gold test videos already that good gold, doesn't really start even arriving until a target ID of about 40. Now you are going to get some very small gold around 30, but I haven't seen a lot. So anything from 30 and below could essentially just be thought of as trash as far as I'm concerned. I would just ignore it. And what's so fantastic about that is you're working with this huge target ID range. You see the Equinox 800, it only goes from like, I think 0 to what, 39 or something, and it's iron is represented as negative numbers, which is I think a lot less confusing than today is too, obviously. However, a target ID of 0 to 39 is very, very, very close. Everything's really compacted, so it's much harder to discriminate out a lot of that small micro trash. Whereas in here, with gold falling so high on the target ID range, 40 and above, sometimes 30 and above, there's a whole range of trash you could ignore at 30 and below, right? I just think that's a great feature of this machine. Okay, now let's address that topic actually of the first and most important target ID segment. The tone break of the second and third segment don't really matter. That's up to you guys. You see, here, if I hit my silver dime, you can see it's coming up at 92, penny, 88, So what I found is the only reason why I have my tone break here in the middle and at 80 is because I know all my pennies and dimes are going to fall way above that. So that's a huge middle tone break where you got a lot of aluminum, nickels, and other stuff falling. You can adjust that however you want. It's not like this. What I'm saying is like spoken word or something. It's just you could go to 85, whatever. That's the cool thing. This tone break is more important. This is what I would make sure you don't set it below 10, because it is so important to hear that iron. And if you can't hear the iron and it sounds like a mid-tone, oh boy, that's going to mess you up big time. You're going to be taking a lot of nails. So I would at least set it to 10. Now let me show you something really bizarre about this machine. Okay, so we know it's set at 10. I'm going to hit the back arrow right here when I want to get out of this menu. I just hit this upper right hand corner. All right. Then I'm going to hit the middle thing until I hit, oh, I'm sorry. Then I'm going to hit the back arrow again. Look, discrimination is at 10 now, right? I can also adjust discrimination from here. I'm going to go to 20. Now I'm going to go back to expert. Tones, expert again. It's at 20. So discrimination on this machine, some people might take it as elimination. No, it's not. It's not at all. It's not notching out where you can't hear something. Discrimination on this machine literally represents your first tone. So if I move this arrow, hit the minus button. Whoops, I'm sorry. What am I doing here? There we go. If I go to tone break and I go back down to 10, and then I hit the back button and the back button, now it's back at 10. So you can literally adjust that first iron tone from here just by your discrimination. All right? That's the most bizarre thing, because here, if we go, whoops, back to discrimination expert, there's a notch feature where you can literally eliminate a sound from the machine. It's just bizarre to me how they tied that together and created notch separately as its own entity, and then called that discrimination, because you're not discriminating anything out. You're just it's just your opportunity to change the pitch to iron pitch. Very bizarre. And it doesn't even start as an iron pitch, which is even more confusing. And that's why I'm doing this video. So, okay, let's go back. So you've got all the settings done, right? You got your discrimination at 10, and you got your tone break set where you want them. Right, you've messed around with that a little bit. You've got the frequency of your pitch, right? The hertz of your pitch set to where they sound good to you. Your lowest tone is at the lowest pitch, right? The 100 hertz sounds like iron. All right, now. So how do we get to the place where we can just toggle between, right, a single and a multi-frequency program? We just went over my multi-frequency program because we created it out of Deep HC. Well, let's just go to Deus Mono. It's really that simple. Just go to Deus Mono, input all the settings we just went over, right? Discrimination, 10, right? Remember, sensitivity is going to go up to like 80, 85 or higher. I'm just indoors right now. Okay, here's what's different Everything else is you're going to change to be exactly the same. So you just mirror, right? Mirror copies of each other. Here's what's different. Deus Mono is a single frequency program. Now I have been hunting in 17 kilohertz. Remember, this is not the frequency of the pitch of the sound anymore. This is the frequency the detector is shooting into the ground. So we've got 13 kilohertz, 7.5, right? You can go all the way up. It really doesn't matter. I usually, actually, I don't think I've been hunting in 17 kilohertz. I think I changed that from my mono program. So let's go back to my mono program in a moment. But let's say you're setting this up. You're going to change this to whatever kilohertz, right, you want to use. And then these also can be offset by a certain number of kilohertz. I recommend 17, 13, or 7.5 being good middle numbers. Right? If you go too high or too low, you can deal with too much things like too much EMI or right not going as deep. So you run into issues like that. But always experiment in your own dirt and conditions. Okay, so let's say I saved this now, and I'm going to show you how to save this in a little bit. But let's just go to my mono program and see what I was hunting in. So this is K2. And yes, I was hunting in 13 kilohertz. You can always change that number, right, to whatever you want, and you can resave it with that new number. Okay. So if I wanted to resave this, it would be really simple. It would just be option, program, save. Right. Save K2, replace, yes, valid, boom, and there. It's every time I open it up now, it's going to be in 7.5 kilohertz. Okay. Okay, so now let's go over saving your program. The user manual is a piece of crap. I'm just going to say it. It's extremely chaotic and confusing and kind of vague. I mean, as is most of XP Deus's material. It's just extremely sort of vague, and a lot of it is written as if it were written by an engineer. And, you know, that's not a bad thing, but if you're a lay person, you're just going to want to chuck it against a wall. You know, it needs to be formatted properly and organized and laid out in a simplistic way, and it's just not. So, anyway, let's go ahead and go over how to save your program. So once you've implemented all the settings that you want to implement, you know, you've gone through everything that we've gone to, you know. By the way, if you saw my sensitivity at 50 or 60, it's only because I'm inside my house. Normally I run my sensitivity, 85 plus. Iron volume all the way up, reactivity 1.5, whatever, audio response 4 or 5. Discrimination, get it at 10. And we've already been over all this. But what I'm in right now is I'm not in the two of my custom programs. So I'm just showing you that you would go to something like DPi Conductor, right? And you would start implementing all of the settings that we just went over. Right? Now, don't forget 3 tones, bottle cap 0. Get that silencer at 0 every time, guys. Okay. So you're ready to save your program. Here we go. Upper left button, from the main screen in just the general deep high conductor program, once you've implemented all the settings you want, Option, upper left-hand corner. Right? If it doesn't show program right away, that's okay. Just hit the middle top button, right? And scroll to program. Upper left button, select. Save. Upper left button, select. Okay, you can see here, when I scroll through, there's a number of just different numbers, and then there's all these general programs. Right? So I don't want to save, unless you want to save over one of your old programs. There's KEF, at 15, 16 is K2. That's my Deus Mono single frequency program. But I'm going to choose 17 here. Select. And then it's really simple. You just hit the plus and minus keys. It'll take you through numbers first, and then it'll go to letters. All right, so let's say I want D, right? Next letter, and I hit the upper, see these two buttons here are gonna take you back or forward to the next letter. So then I hit the plus and minus keys again, right? And then I hit the next one. Okay. All right, let's just say gin. And valid. There it is, gin. Okay. I messed up on something. You know, what do I do? Don't worry about it. Just, you can either replace this program, or you can go to Option, Program, press, and if you're not at program number, just scroll through by pressing the top middle button. Select, right, top left button. Okay, delete. Select, and then just press yes. That's it. Now I'm back at the general. And then I can just press the plus and minus keys to scroll to whatever I want. Now remember, the whole point of this is KEF and K2 are just... KEF is just the deep high conductor program, deep HC modified with my settings. K2 is the Deus Mono single frequency program modified with pretty much the same exact settings, with the exception that we're working in a single frequency, right? Which was 13 kilohertz, but as I said before, that can be whatever you want it to be. Doesn't matter. Mess around with it. And you know, this isn't set in stone. And then what you're doing is, when I constantly say in the field is, okay, I'm hunting in KEF, which is deep high conductor, right? It's a multi-frequency program. And I go, oh, I'm going to switch over to single frequency. What's that sound like? So I just hit the plus button and boom, I'm in K2. So the way we did that was we just went into Option and we saved two different programs, the way I just showed you, back to back. And that way you can just toggle back to back with, you know, really simple. Super easy. Just as easy as with the Equinox, where you can just up. It's actually easier than the Equinox. I thought this would be harder, but I figured this way out. The Equinox I love because you can just flip through the frequencies with a click of a thumb, right, from single to multi. But here, you could just save all your favorite frequencies, and you could just toggle through them, right, and just check your targets. It's that simple. I think that's pretty much it. Now, I just want to clarify, when I talk about frequencies, it's a little confusing. You've got frequency of sound, right, the pitch, and we took that down to 100 hertz, remember? And then you've got frequencies you're hunting in, right? Frequencies that the detector is actually sending its signal into the ground and then reflect off of that target and analyze the conductivity of that target. Let's see. I had one question. Oh yeah, pitch. This is a little confusing. So the frequency of the pitch of the sound is 100 hertz. When we adjusted our iron down to 100 hertz, that's the frequency of the pitch of the sound, right? Pitch mode is entirely different. So if I go back in menu, oops, discrimination, expert, 3 tones. Okay, so just real quick, if I scroll over hitting the plus button, there's pitch mode, right? Which if I press expert, upper left here, you can adjust the frequency of the sound of pitch mode. We're just not doing that today, right? So I'm going to hit the minus button here, and it takes me to 5 tones, 4 tones, 3 tones, etc. And remember how confusing that is, because the first tone is iron, right? If I go to expert, that first segment there is your iron tone, which is just so strange. But anyway, so I just want to thank you guys all for watching. If this was just redundant for you, I'm sorry. We get a lot of people who are confused. I'm always confused when I pick up a new detector. This is really for anybody who just wants to really get things clarified in their mind. I know I do. I still have a lot to learn on this machine. The GPS program I know is going to be a headache probably. Maybe it'll be easy. Maybe I'll be surprised, but I doubt it. Yeah, other than that, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Cheers. Happy hunting, and wish me a safe and fast recovery.